We're good. Are we good?
Yeah. He's still working on getting done.
We are ready to start when the authorities are ready to begin.
Good evening, all. Sorry for the delay. Technology is vexing us this evening. Let's get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Supervisor Lopez, do you do the honors?
Yes, please stand if you can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First item up is our roll call.
Okay, we have Supervisor Long. Supervisor Vianney Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Tony Tremblay.
Here.
Councilmember Susan Santangelo.
Here.
And Chair Scott Bear.
Here.
Okay, we do need to announce that Supervisor Kelly Long has been excused from tonight's meeting, but we do have a quorum.
And roll call for Oxnard.
We have Supervisor Long. Vice Chair Vianney Lopez.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gabe Teran.
Here.
Chair Barbara Falcon.
Here.
And Councilmember Gabriela Rodriguez.
Present.
Okay, and again, Supervisor Long has been excused from tonight's meeting, but we do have Councilmember Gabriela Rodriguez stepping, I'm sorry, also for Bear Perella, who is not here. I'm sorry about that. And we do have a quorum.
Next up, agenda review. Director, any changes?
We do not have any changes to agenda, but we did receive one public comment from Save Our Skies Camarillo, which was shared with the members and posted online as well. That was it.
Thank you. Next up for Camarillo is approval of the minutes for our last meeting in May. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Can we get a roll call, please?
We have Supervisor Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Tony Tremblay,
Yes.
Councilmember Santangelo,
Yes.
and Chair Bear.
Yes.
And that motion passes unanimously 4-0.
And for approval of the minutes from Oxnard.
We have Vice Chair Vianney Lopez.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Yes. All in favor? Roll call.
Okay, we have Vice Chair Lopez.
Yes.
We have Mayor Pro Tem Gabe Teran.
Yes.
We have Chair Barbara Falcon.
Yes.
And we have Councilmember Gabriela Rodriguez.
Yes.
And that motion passes unanimously 4-0.
Okay, and do we have any public comment on non-agenda items?
No, for the record, there is no public comment and non-agenda item.
Okay, we have several public comments that we'll save. They're all related to item 7D. We'll save them for when that matter is discussed. Next up, the consent agenda. For Camarillo 6A. Do we have a motion? 6B is for Oxnard also.
I'll move 6A.
I'll second. Can we get a roll call?
We have Supervisor Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Tremblay.
Here.
Councilmember Santangelo,
Yes.
and Chair Bear.
Yes.
Okay, and that motion passes 4-0.
Okay. For consent item 2, which is adoption of resolution delegating authority to director of airports to execute and administer on-call professional services contracts. Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
All roll call?
Okay, we have Vice Chair Lopez.
Yes.
We have Mayor Pro Tem Teran.
Yes.
We have Chair Barbara Filkin
Yes.
and Councilmember Rodriguez,
Yes.
and that motion passes 4-0.
And I was in error before. We do need a roll call vote on 6B for Camarillo.
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna sit.
I'll second it. Can we get a roll call on 6B for
We have
Camarillo?
We have Supervisor Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Tremblay,
Yes.
Councilmember Santangelo,
Yes.
and Chair Bear,
Yes.
and that motion passes 4-0.
All right, on to the regular agenda. Um, Let's see. Yeah, so it's item 7 is 7A is a receive and file on Wings Over Camarillo.
Yes, chairs and members, just want to do a quick introduction for the 45th, I believe, Wings Over Camarillo event. We have Bob Trimborn, Director of Operations, and Bill Thomas, the air boss, and kind of give an overview of this year's event.
And I'm sorry for the interruption, but would you like me to read off the public comment instructions?
Do we have public comments on Wings Over Camarillo?
No, but in general, if we have anybody online, would you like me to prompt the instructions?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, to the members of the public who wish to address the authorities tonight with live public comments on any agenda item, please visit airports.venturacounty.gov meeting calendar for participation instructions, streaming links, meeting IDs, and passcodes. In-person speakers will be called upon first, followed by remote participants. Speakers will be called to speak after the agenda item is presented. For in-person public comment, please fill out a speaker card and submit it to the secretary before the end of the public comment period. For remote participants via Zoom or telephone, please accept the prompt to be promoted to speaker and unmute your mic when it's your turn to speak. Members of the public are allotted 3 minutes per speaker per listed agenda item at a single meeting, unless the time allotment is increased or decreased by the chair depending on the number of speakers. And please use your time accordingly. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Airport Authority. It's always nice to be back. First, the Camarillo Wings Association is going to be celebrating the 90th anniversary of the DC-3. So the theme will be DC-3s, and I think we'll have 6 of them sitting out on the line and 2 of them be flying. John Lowe's chairman, Bob's the director, and I'm the air boss. A picture from the past, take a look at the C-17 because you won't see one this year. They're all been federalized and working back and forth between the here and the Middle East. But this does give you a feel for the size and the amount of airplanes and people and cars. 15-16 August is our date. So the Camarillo Wings Association is a 501c3. Its only mission is to put on an air show. So that's its official and only real requirement. Support organizations, we can't do this alone. So we've got the Department of Airports, CAF, EAA, 99s, and the City of Camarillo. And it really is a very good team. And our mission, put on an air show, but then try to get more and more interest in aviation and technology STEM to our youth, which has been very successful so far. And I think the key part of our benevolence is the fact that since 2010, we've donated 813,000 plus to the local nonprofits that support us. So the goal combination, aviation history, veterans, great flying. As they say, air shows, it's noise, it's speed, and it's fire. And if you got those things and then throw in a whole bunch of stuff for the kids to do, you got a great air show. So this year, again, 90 years for the DC-3. We'll be flying two of them. One of them will be D-Day Doll, which actually dropped parachute folks in Normandy at the invasion of Normandy. And then the Clay Lacy DC-3 that's rigged up like a United that's now currently owned by Access Air and CAU. Patrick Warburton is our Grand Marshal. He's a local TV and movie celebrity, and more importantly, his son's an instructor at Channel Islands, and they are very active in the community, including the aviation piece of it. The elements, everybody has their focus, but on mine is the earth side of it. Bob's is everything else plus the cars, but the volunteers are critical. Parking. Thank you, Keith. We got good parking this year, and we will have pyrotechnics for the city of Camarillo. I'm sorry. You'll have my phone number again. So the STEM Pavilion has been very highly attended. One of the complaints that we've heard is that the parents want us to put some stands outside the entrance so they can watch the air show because they can't get their kids out of there. Air show performers, we've got several of our old ones, several brand new ones. And in the beginning of the show, we're going to be doing a tribute to Judy Phelps, who was one of our steady, ever available performers who died this year. And so Sammy Mason's going to be flying her airplane in the opening, doing her act. So I thought that was sort of a cool way to go. We've got 52 airplanes flying, probably another 30 that'll be static display. So there should be plenty of eye candy for almost anybody. For the car geeks, there's Bob's green truck there in front of the C-17. We'll probably have somewhere between 200 and 210 there over the course of the weekend. We've got, if all goes well, we've got 4 World War II veterans who are planning to come, but all of them are over 100. So I won't guarantee we'll have 4, but the plan is that they're planning to be here, and if you have an opportunity to swing by the Veterans Hangar, they're really interesting folks. I know 2 of them personally, and they're dynamite. You could talk to them all day. This is a picture of the last act with the wall of fire. All of our pyro, by the way, is ground-based. There's nothing airborne, and the animal shelter has never complained about our pyro. I won't say the same for the people in Spanish Hills and some of the other parts of Camarillo, but we aim the end of the dynamite sticks at the animal shelter, so all of the noise goes 90 degrees. Any questions? Okay.
Go ahead if you have a question. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the report and the update. So I just have 2 quick things. I know in the past when we looked at parking, it sounds like you have some parking arrangements that are going to help alleviate that this year. Is that correct?
The lots that sometimes fill up with extra cars for the car dealers are all empty right now. So we really don't have any parking issues. We'll see how many years we can stretch this.
Okay. And I mean, hearing that, then if those are usually used by the car dealers, hopefully they don't sell those parked cars out from under them. But, maybe the Wings Over Camarillo can use some of those proceeds, I guess. But no, I only ask because I know in the past we had looked at it and I brought it up on my Google sheet. I read an article recently about how the Hollywood Bowl was able to shift people from driving there by taking a couple strategies, like having a really good park and ride, a good um, shuttle system, and also appropriately pricing the parking so that way people who truly wanted to park there at the venue knew kind of what they were getting into as far as pricing went.
Right.
And it would really incentivize people carpooling or using the shuttle system. So I'm just glad to hear that you have that because I know that's been a pain point for folks in the past.
Just sort of remember the strategy because I'm guessing in 2 or 3 years, we'll probably have to figure out how to do it.
Sure. Yeah. So the other thing, Patrick Warburton, I recognize the name. I had to look him up, and he also, for kind of a geeky thing here too, I guess. He did the instructional video for Soarin' over California and Soarin' the World in California Adventure for Disney.
Yep.
Yeah.
He does a lot of voice. There's a animated feature out that he's participating in too.
Yeah, so he does some great voiceover work, probably stuff we can't mention here that he does. So, but no, thank you for the update. Much appreciated.
And I would like to make one comment because I've been, I think, working the air show now 5 years plus board. It really does take a village to put it on. So kudos to the team.
And Ken, for the record, there is no public comment on item 7A. There's no public comment on item 7A. And good evening. My name is Lisette Kennel, and our airport's communication and engagement manager, Jeanette Haregi, could not attend tonight's meeting, so I'll be presenting her agenda item. In the mid-1930s, the Douglas Aircraft Company designed an aircraft unlike any other with the goal of changing the landscape of aviation for both commercial and military use forever. The DC-3 made its debut over Clover Field in Santa Monica, California in December of 1935, and by 1936, the aircraft had become part of the United Airlines and American Airlines fleets, offering passengers an elevated level of comfort, speed, and reliability. By 1939, the DC-3 was converted for military use for World War II efforts both stateside and overseas. Most popularly known as the C-47, the aircraft carried troops, cargo, and also provided medical evacuations, playing a significant role for the Allied forces. With fewer than 200 DC-3s and C-47s still flying, it had become more and more challenging to keep the history of the aircraft alive. An even greater challenge is making it feasible to have the aircraft accessible to the public. But that's exactly what Access Air is doing. Based at Oxnard Airport, Access Air is a fixed space operator providing fuel services, hangar space, and more to aircraft throughout Ventura County and beyond. In May 2025, one of the few remaining DC-3s came to call Oxnard Airport home. Owned by DC-3 Mainliner LLC, operated by California Aeronautical University, CAU, and based at Access Air, the DC-3 Mainliner O'Connor is slated to offer Ventura County residents and anyone visiting the area with the opportunity to not only see the aircraft up close, but also board a scenic flight. The history of the Mainliner O'Connor is especially unique. Built in the fall of 1945 as a C-47, the aircraft was quickly declared surplus and never made it overseas. At least not for war. Instead, it was sent to the American Embassy in Lima, Peru, in November of 1945 and returned to the United States in 1950 after being purchased by the Standard Steel Spring Company in Pennsylvania. By 1971, the aircraft was acquired by the state of Georgia and was used to transport high-profile individuals, including then-Governor Jimmy Carter, through 1975. Beginning in 1984, the aircraft transitioned through several private ownerships until finally it settled in the hands of Clay Lacy, a former United Airlines pilot and aviation enthusiast who named the aircraft the DC-3 Mainliner O'Connor. Lacy fully restored the aircraft and had it painted with authentic United Airlines colors and branding. Now in his 90s, and after connecting with Matt Johnston at CAU at Access Air, It seemed only fitting that the aircraft set out on a new journey with the purpose of entertaining, but primarily educating people of all ages about the golden age of aviation. How can the public learn more? This year's Wings Over Camarillo Air Show is celebrating 90 years of the DC-3 and the DC-3 mainliner of honor. Will be on site at the show for public view. From there, Johnson and his team will begin working to establish a program that will make flights aboard the DC-3 accessible to the public by purchase of a ticket for a scenic flight. Ventura County residents can expect to see the aircraft flying periodically over Ventura County, a requirement to keep the aircraft operational. The Ventura County Department of Airports, in partnership with Access Air, will be sharing information related to flights aboard the DC-3 once it's available. To learn more, visit dc3mainliner.org. Thank you.
Next up. Either again is vexing me. Mr. Oxnard.
Yes, it's a receive and file on the 805 test range.
Yes.
Go ahead,
and-
Director Frias.
Thank you, chairs and members. So we have been working on a project called Area 805. Yes, it is a play on the military's Area 51 test range with our zip code. Most folks don't know that you need, if you design an aircraft or a drone, before you fly it in airspace, you need approval to do that, called the Certificate of Authorization, a COA. And right now, if you are in California, you basically have a couple places outside the state to go do that, Utah, Oregon. So we've been working the last 3 years with one of the, let me start the slides here. One of the initial, here are the initial 7 locations. There's now 9. I'll get to that slide next. But the FAA designated these 7 locations across the United States to do that kind of testing. We partnered with the University of Alaska Fairbanks to be a sub-test station for that. And we 3 years in the planning design, last 17 months of approval through the FAA, just got approval early May. We still have some work with the University of Alaska Fairbanks to come out and stand us up. But we finally have gotten to that point. Here's some of the partners with the University of Alaska Fairbanks already. I did that in my previous work, Contra Costa County. We had some small on airport location, and all the rest you see there are out of the state. Again, we've got companies in the county like Aero Environment here in Simi Valley, Mopark, that have to go out of state to do that testing. We would provide that opportunity. Oh, I pushed too many buttons. There we go. So here's the locations. These are all 9 locations now authorized. Again, we would be a sub-test facility. We also have local entities, Fathom Works here, the Navy. We're very fortunate that we sit between the 2 largest Navy test ranges, the Point Mugu Air Sea Test Range off the coast, which is 36,000 square miles. And then inland is China Lake, which is 19,000 square miles. The difficulty for folks, though, to access is you have to be a military contractor to get access to those facilities. Our facility is a civilian option, not as complex, but easier to access because, again, it's a civilian site. So that's what we're looking to bring on. We've got some developers interested in doing hangar and office space at Oxnard Airport. There's some of the renderings that they're looking at designing. But we have other things happening in this space. AAM, Advanced Air Mobility, not only includes the test range that I'll show you on the next slide, but also air taxi. Most of you are much younger than me and don't remember that cartoon show called The Jetsons. But the Jetsons are coming. And what you see up here in 2027, we've got the Super Bowl in LA, and followed in 2028 by the Olympics. You will see this air taxi, Joby and Archer, the 2 biggest companies right now doing that, but they will showcase some of those operations in this area. They're already flying in Northern California, other countries. They're doing these operations. Again, it's a taxi cab. It's a 3-4 passenger facility, basically air taxi that will move you from place to place. Again, could you imagine if you had a 8 a.m. flight out of LAX, how many hours in advance you would have to leave? But if you were on one of these, you could be there in 15 minutes any time of the day. That's what they look ultimately to do. Many years in upstart and before they can monetize it, but you'll start seeing this technology in the next few years happening as well. And then we jump to the test range again, because of where we sit so close to offshore and the ocean. It's a very good opportunity for us to do this 500 square mile airspace test range. Encompasses Oxnard Airport, but most of it, as you see, is off the coast up to about 7,500 feet. Let me be clear, this isn't 50 or 100 drones flying around at a time. This is 1 to 3 per day, visual line of sight operating, and the pilot is either on the ground in a chase plane or in a chase boat operating that piece of equipment. From community concerns, it's nice because the new technology is electric motors, quieter and more environmentally friendly. That is what's heading our way. So as I mentioned, we got FAA approval. Now it's having the University of Alaska Fairbanks folks come out, train our staff, go through all the paperwork and the process of approvals before somebody can actually be on the test range, which is probably in the next 60 to 90 days. We've been working with the community. Jeanette's done a pretty good flyer that we've passed out and distributed over the last year plus, and we will do a lot of the outreach as operations continue to start up. So that's just a quick overview of Area 805, and we're expecting next 60 to 90 days to be operational. Some of the flyers that Jeanette has done for us on the left there. And again, 1 to 3 flights per day is what we're expecting. We're also looking for additional locations. We encompass the Oxnard Airport, but we're looking for various properties along the coast north of Ventura so that folks could do some of their testing just right off the coast, not actually have to launch. Those that don't need a runway, and many of them don't, they could just launch off the coast from a parcel of land as well. So that's what I have. Any questions or any more details I could expand on?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for the information on this. So I apologize if this may be a technical question, and I'll admit kind of low level of knowledge on my part. But with these autonomous vehicles, autonomous drones, or when we look at the potential for the air taxis, how do they interface or interact with air traffic control? Is that autonomous also, or they just are given text instructions, or how does that work?
That's a great question. And autonomous and uncrewed are two distinct different things. What we're talking in our test range is uncrewed, meaning they're not in that aircraft. They're from the ground, observing, directing it on a boat in a chase plane. Autonomous, a different technology, and is used in other places. That's not what we're talking about in our test range. That is pre-program the airplane to fly from point A, point B, and it does it all on its own without a pilot in control. So that's a different thing. That's ultimately where the air taxis want to be, but that's a long ways away. You know, I had a discussion with an engineer in this space years ago, 5-6 years ago, and you know, they're still perfecting vehicles driving on the ground. So in the airspace, that's a few years at least behind that technology. Again, it happens now, and that technology exists. But quite frankly, probably the bigger challenge is getting passengers in an airplane that doesn't have a pilot. That's probably the bigger challenge that they have.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yes.
And I know with like Waymos, for example, there is the ability for a human intervention if needed from a remote location. But also in my head, like if there's a collision or something, they get automatic updates to avoid that. And I imagine, even though we're not talking autonomous here, when it comes to air traffic control, if there's some condition change, that there's some way to interface that those autonomous, like pre-programmed flight plans would be able to change with that. Is that,
Yeah, there are radar systems and avoidance systems that already, TCAS, those kind of systems do exist. That's not what we're talking
Sure.
in our test range, but ultimately those are where those operators want to head towards.
okay. And my last statement on that, I'll just say this is really fascinating to see, and I'm really interested in seeing where we go in next steps here in the testing phase. I seem to recall from the Jetsons that the vehicle turned into a suitcase at the end too. Is that right?
That's just a few years away.
Okay.
And the last piece I want to share, which is a great showcase. All of this also is about attracting business and jobs to the county. So in 2023, we had a company called Swarm Arrow that was deciding where they were going to locate their manufacturing, their testing facility. They were looking at Texas and California. We interviewed and spoke with them, talked about Area 805, and they chose our location. So in 2023, they rented office space at the Oxnard Airport with a staff of 8. Jeanette, our PIO, and I 2 weeks ago met with their team at the office. They now stand at 90 employees.
Wow.
They're renting off airport space and going to go through the fence agreement. The new round of funding expect by the end of 27 to be at 200 employees, and by the end of 2030 to be at 400 employees. And that's just one. We expect to replicate that, 100 times over is what we're shooting for. That's our goal.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Chair.
I would like to make one comment according to what Gabe just said and what you made a comment about the Jetsons. Autonomy has different levels, and putting a human in a car in the air is basically what we're looking at. That is definitely coming. The recent rule changes the FAA put forward on Mosaic. Most people think of it as light sport aircraft and making things more economically feasible, but it is an entree into the whole AAM and personal vehicles. So anyway, exciting times.
Any other questions, comments? Any public comments on this item?
No, for the record, there's no public comments on items 7B or 7C.
Okay, thank you. Director, thanks.
And I'm sorry, just as a friendly reminder for the authorities, if you're speaking into the mic, or I'm sorry, if you're speaking, please speak closer to the mic. We're getting some feedback that the mics aren't picking up.
Next item, 7D, of interest to a lot of people. Ms. Powers.
Good evening, Chairs Filkins and Bear. Erin Powers, Deputy Director with the airport. Tonight I'll be kicking off a presentation that I'll be sharing with Keith Freitas, our Director of Airports, regarding the recent Camarillo redevelopment RFPs. Whoops, I'm sorry. Thank you. To make sure we all understand which parcels or which sites we're talking about when we are talking about the request for proposals, because we had two. Our recent request for proposals that went out were for location 1, which involved a potential redevelopment site on a 4.1 acre parcel that currently has 49 older hangar structures occupying the space. The request for proposal allowed for repair of the existing 49 hangars. It allowed for replacement of those hangars on that site, and it also allowed for the option to replace those hangars in similar fashion on a 5 acre site that is been designated for additional hangars in our airport layout plan. We received a total of 3 proposals on this request, and Air 7 was ranked the top proposal. For the second location, this was a slightly smaller parcel, 1.9 acre redevelopment site that is currently mostly made up of a paved tie-down area. And the request for proposal allowed for development of that area. We received 1 proposal by Orbic Helicopters, which was ranked the top proposal. Tonight, we're planning on providing a quick recap of the June RFP open house and a review of some of the key information that we provided at that open house, because we have found that we want to make sure that we're distributing as much accurate information as we can about the process. We also are going to include a deeper look into the RFP proposal scoring so that folks can get an idea of how this came about. Following our March public meetings, where each of the 4 proposers for the sites on the RFP were invited to share their development concept. Airport staff recognized that the meetings ran a bit long and that some members of the public left before they may have had an opportunity to provide comment or ask questions. So after the RFP selection committee ranked the proposals, which was based on only what was submitted during the request for proposal period, the airport held an open house to facilitate another opportunity for the public to get questions answered and to introduce the 2 top ranked proposers, Orbic Helicopters and Air 7. A few notes of interest about the meeting. We had approximately 68 members of the public attend. We also had about 15 to 20 other staff, including the proposal teams. And we also had some interested authority and commission members attend. The meeting ran about 2.5 hours. Staff had almost a 40-minute presentation, so a lot of information. We appreciated everyone's patience listening to that information. And then we had a great opportunity to open the floor to questions and provide any answers. So that ran almost 1 hour and 45 minutes of questions. And staff stayed until there were no questions left. At the open house, we shared information about the request for proposal process, going all the way back to the beginning, starting with our governing documents, which spell out our airport obligations, our recent planning studies, which set the foundation for the RFPs by including airport demand forecasts and airport development concepts to meet that demand. And we also, we explained how feedback from the community and our stakeholders informed the scoring criteria in the RFPs. And we're going to go into that in a little bit more detail in the slides to come. So we always love to start off with this slide, which many of you may have seen several times on the Joint Powers Agreement from 1976 between the City of Camarillo and the county. And this is an agreement that sort of sets the parameters of how the Camarillo Airport we agreed would operate. And so we like to provide this slide to just reaffirm our commitment to the community, that we're committed to, not changing the use and role of the Camarillo Airport. So we plan to remain a general aviation airport. There will be no large cargo operations, no increase to the runway length that is currently allowed to be 6,000 feet, and we will have no commercial airline service. Looking at when we talk about our governing documents, this is truly where some of our airport obligations come from. So in the 1977 deed from the federal government to the county, and that's how we came into possession of this airport, we became obligated to treat all aviation users fairly and equitably. We can't just say no to big jets and yes to small airplanes, or yes only to jets and no to small airplanes or helicopters. And we also we're obligated to meet the demand of the airport. In fact, the deed actually says within its pages that if we don't follow our obligations, the federal government can give us 60 days notice and take back the airport for their own use. We also have grant assurances because we accept federal grants for infrastructure improvements. And those come with obligations very similar to some of the language in the 1977 deed. And those obligations are renewed every time we take a grant for 20 years. Part of our federal obligations as being part of the national transportation system means that we are required to maintain an airport master plan. And a master plan is a planning document that identifies near, mid, and long-term facility and maintenance requirements based on forecasted demand. The last full master plan was completed in 2011, and we began to update that in 2020, but due to public concern over noise and airport use, mainly concerns we weren't maintaining our role as a general aviation airport, we pivoted from a master plan to an airport layout plan update, which is really just a smaller portion of a master plan that doesn't look at the role of the airport. And it focuses on updating the demand forecast and facility requirements to meet that demand. We did this to assure the community that we intended the airport to remain a general aviation airport and that we were committed to the agreement with the city of Camarillo through the JPA. We also, during this time, when we kicked off that airport layout plan update / mini master plan, we heard a lot of concern about noise. And so we were able to secure a federal grant of over $700,000 to help support a noise study that would allow us to address the noise concerns for all types of operations at the airport. As we continue, I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared for that to get big. As part of those planning documents, all of these played a role in our request for proposal. We went through the process to complete these studies before we were able to move forward because we wanted to make sure that we had completed the planning and then looked at the noise concerns. And what I wanted to point out was that this is actually an exhibit for the preferred development concept that was part of the study that included a lot of public participation. And it actually shows hangars in the Northeast Hangar development area that was identified. This is that 5-acre parcel. And then it also identifies in dark purple areas of aging infrastructure that may be redeveloped in the future. And in fact, this is the 4.1-acre parcel that is part of one of the requests for proposals that we recently issued. Additionally, the area in light blue along here is all aeronautical reserve. Keith has shared before, and I think he might even have a map tonight, that we don't have a lot of development, new facility development areas. It's really maintaining our infrastructure and perhaps redeveloping aging infrastructure. But for the most part, this is the plan, the preferred development concept that helps support the forecasts that were developed and approved by the FAA as part of the airport layout plan study. I mentioned the noise study. And so we also like, besides the JPA slide, this JPA slide, we like to take every opportunity to also talk about how the airport is addressing noise concerns, because that continues to be a commitment that we have to the community. And it's one that we like to share the information that we're doing and to just let folks know that we're never done. So when Keith came on board, our director of airports, he recognized that the airport didn't have a great way of effectively communicating with the community. We would try to get information pieces out, but we recognize that hiring a communications and engagement manager who could stay on top of it and also be a point of contact for the community would it really, and we've seen the benefit of that. And I think a lot of our community members appreciate that. We also expanded and enhanced public outreach communication effectively by hiring Jeanette Haregi, our communications and engagement manager. We implemented the Fly Friendly VC Noise program, purchased noise flight tracking and comment software. The department holds regular meetings and updates with the city of Camarillo to make sure that we are listening and communicating about airport operations and any concerns they may have or they're hearing from the community. We expanded our Fly Friendly VC to include jet-specific information here at Camarillo Airport, because each airport, there's an adage, when you've seen one airport, you've seen one airport. And that's because at Oxnard Airport, a lot of the community's concern is focused on the smaller aircraft and the training traffic. At Camarillo Airport, what we hear most about are the jets coming in on the approach into Camarillo. So we expanded our Fly Friendly to focus on that aspect to address the concerns. We've updated the ATIS message, chart supplement for preferred runway use program. I confessed last night that I didn't remember what ATIS stood for, and I didn't look it up in between. So, but this is a message where we have the opportunity to have information for pilots who are preparing their flight plans and doing their research as the pilot in charge before as they look to come into our airport. It's information that's available to them where we talk about our preferred runway. And if I got that wrong, because I know we have some pilots, please feel free to correct me. We also expedited the evaluation of the alternative approach course and glide path. So this is when we kicked off the noise study, it had two parts. The second part was the noise compatibility plan, which identified measures that the airport would look to take with the support of the Board of Supervisors to continue to address noise concerns from the community. And one of those mitigation measures that was included in the list was an approach and procedure study for Camarillo Airport to see if there are any adjustments that we can make on the approach or departures for Camarillo Airport to relieve our neighbors, if possible, from some of the noise that they experience. We are nearing completion of that. That study was, we spent a little bit over $300,000 in our efforts to examine every reasonable possibility. We have no silver bullet, unfortunately. There is no just one-stop solution, but we believe that some of the recommendations that are coming out of that study and the other efforts here that we're talking about, the cumulative effect will bring some benefits. But really our goal is, if there's something that we can do that will make a difference, that's what we're looking to do. And with that, I'm going to actually turn it over to Keith. talk a little bit about the request for proposal process.
Aaron, thank you. ATIS, for those non-pilots, Automated Terminal Information System. Not that you cared to hear that at all. So I want to start by saying it's my turn now to kind of break in. Thank you, Aaron, for the preliminary work. It's important to highlight that what you're seeing and what we've been talking about, and I will be talking about in this RFP process, is normally not transparent. It normally is, we as an airport county entity would issue an RFP. We would collect those proposals. So we would share that we're issuing an RFP, which has already happened. We would collect those proposals. We internally would rank those proposals. We internally would negotiate a lease with the top ranked entity. We then many months later would come back to the AAC, the airport authority, and say, here is a draft lease. This is what we want to take to the Board of Supervisors. So all the things that we've been doing since the RFP was issued are extremely transparent, which has also caused some folks to get some misinformation, rumors going that has stirred up some folks. But we've been trying to do that in an effort to be transparent. So that's what you're going to get tonight is our efforts to continue to be as transparent as we can. So Aaron did a pretty good job of talking about all the work that we've done with the ALP or Airport Layout Plan update, where you kind of set the future, the demands, you do the forecast for the expected demands over the next 20 years of our airport. Tied in that, we also did a noise study, which also did forecast of what we expected in the future demand for this facility. And then we started, as we were doing that over the last 3 years, about 2 years ago, we had 2 tenants that came to say, hey, we want to meet our demand, we'd like to develop these properties next to us. We told them 2 years ago, hold. We're not going to entertain that because we're in the middle of these ALP process and noise studies. Once they were done at the end of last year, we said, okay. And that's where we started with this committee, AAC, and said, hey, we started with a letter of interest. I think that's my next slide. And we got feedback. If you remember, even this committee suggested not just new development, but add a repair option in that. So that was September. And then we, ultimately did that in December. And then we issued the RFP at the end of the year. I've gone too far. So as we issue the RFP, we have all these things that we have to do to create a ranking of these proposals. So, my heart goes out to all the elected officials who do this on a regular basis, is you have all of these stakeholders. The airport has many stakeholders that have different desires, needs, wants, demands. If you're talking about the FAA, the Airport Enterprise Fund, we have responsibilities. New aviation services, folks want that. Neighbors are concerned about jet concerns, airport revenue, environmental concerns, county sustainability goals, displacement of GA hangars, nonprofit education space concerns, community benefit, jobs creation, tenant development needs, neighbors concerned about small aircraft and helicopters, aging infrastructure, economic development, neighbors concerned about helicopters, and GA hangar rents. So those are not all of them. Those are just a good smattering of them. And then you get into, and I kind of just highlighted some of the key stakeholders for us, our community in Old Town doesn't want to see any more jets. Spanish Hills, they don't want to see any more small piston airplanes. And then all the way out the Village in the Park, helicopters are a concern. Noise and emissions are a concern for all of those. FAA, they want us to be, competitive process, aeronautical uses, consistent with our master plan and airport layout plan. They want us to be self-sustaining. Hangar tenants in the development area, again, in the 4.1 acres, we've got 49 hangar tenants in that area. They're concerned about, will they be kicked off the airport and not have a hangar? They like where the hangar is. They don't want to pay more for hangars. They have camaraderie with their neighbors in that area, and they like the hangars where they are. Ventura County itself has a strategic plan focusing on fiscal responsibility, economic vitality, reliable infrastructure, diverse workforce. And they don't want the airport enterprise fund. Again, remember, we don't take any funds from the county's general fund, which has more demands than they can fund as we speak. So they don't want us to be fiscally irresponsible and at some point go to them and say, we would like more money to help run the airports. We don't do that right now. We're self-sufficient. And then, airport tenants adjacent to this facility, aviation events. We've got EAA, Experimental Aircraft Association, that abuts up to this property. They do great events like Young Eagle. They have operations that this change might impact. So they're concerned about that. Jet blast, exhaust fumes, noise, those kinds of things. So all of that goes into our ranking that we developed and understanding. I understand completely that we've got some of those stakeholders I mentioned have a fit with a proposal, design proposal that was submitted that fits best with their desires and their needs and their wants. I understand that. Our challenge, our difficult challenge, is balancing all of those things I mentioned and then many more. And that's how we develop the ranking criteria. So the top criteria, evaluation criteria, was community benefit, 30 points out of 100, brings new business services, 20 points out of 100, project land use compatible with our master plan and airport layout plan. Then you go developers' financial strength, proposed development schedule, proposed investment amount, overall qualifications, totaling 100 points. And what you see up there to the right is we had 5 rankers. Myself, Deputy Director Aaron was on that, our lease manager, our development manager, and then Jeanette, our PIO, community engagement, was the 5 of us doing the ranking. So you see those overall rankings. And again, the 3 on the left are for the 4.1. So we had 3 proposers interested in the 4.1 acres and just 1 interested party for the 1.9. And here's all the scores you'll see. I'm not going to go through all of those, but it's each of the 5 raters, the 3 interested in the 4.1 to the left, and then the last row on the right, 1.9 acres. At the very bottom, so there's no skewing of numbers, totals, is you would give a 3 to the top ranked entity and a 2 to the number 2 entity, and then a 1 for the third ranked. So you can see for Air 7, 4 out of 5 gave them the top ranked. All 5 of us gave Legend the third place vote. And then for Sky Harbor, 4 out of 5 gave second place to Sky Harbor. So, and then not surprising, the only competitive, the top rate candidate for the 1.9 was Orbit. All right. So again, remember, we're bringing back, we're opening, we're trying to be transparent. And I apologize for my scribble. This is Keith's scribble. Again, this is Keith and Keith only, and I'm only talking about how my perspective when I go through the rating process. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I'm going to at least pick 3, kind of going through my thought process to kind of just share and how I went through it. Again, remember these proposals, we ranked them, that criteria that I talked about earlier slide was what they submitted by the deadline. Not what they said at other meetings, after any of that. It's what they put in writing by the cutoff date. So that's all we had to rank them with as appropriate. So let's just pick the top here. I had Air 7 number 1, Sky Harbor 1 point behind, and Legend, who really didn't do a great job describing their community outreach, specifically fly friendly, things like that. Didn't do a great job there. And you might ask, well, the difference between my Air 7 and Sky Harbor, for me, it came down, I did some math, and it was we have a big concern on particularly Old Town and the jet component. And so I went to the detail of breaking down how many jets, that's a concern, is the number of aircraft, number of jets could be based at this, additional jets could be based. And I did the math. So Air 7 proposed on a 4.1 acre site to put a 49,000 square foot large hangar. And then on the 5 acres, approximately 62 smaller hangars, various sizes from 1,050 square foot up to 3,600 square feet. Legend kind of took an in between, and they've got some large hangars that are as big as 11,000 square feet, and then fairly large hangars at 4,200 square feet, totaling about 66,000 that you could potentially put jet aircraft in. But again, and then between the two sites, put about 62 smaller hangars. And then last was Sky Harbor. They, on the 5 acre, put two 37,000 plus square foot hangars, totaling 74,000 square feet, and then keep the remaining kind of as is smaller hangars on the 4.1. So for me, that kind of, at least I lean towards Air 7. It was more of a balance. And there's not as many potential parking. That's 50% more than that number at 25,000 square feet. So that was my logic going back. So that was Air 7 coming out on top on my ranking. And then let's move down to developers' financial strength. To me, no question, hands down, Sky Harbor was number one, a 10 out of 10. Publicly traded company, $200 to $300 million in tax exempt bonds, ready to spend, do investment, things like that. I gave Legend a 2 because I didn't have any information that they provided in the document other than confidential funding source. So that we kind of ranked lower. And then 7 out of 10 for Air 7. They've got up here, sorry, cash reserves. They've got an equity partner, strategic and guardian assets. So that was a partnership for funding. And then last, I'll go down to development schedule. Here I had Legend number one. In my opinion, they did the best detailed, about 48 months, 4 years to go through the design, environmental phase, and they phased the projects. Nice job there. Sky Harbor next up, they did a fairly good job detailed, but I didn't like their GA hangar repair started in 34 months later. That kind of pushed that off almost 3 years. That was concerning to me. And then last was Air 7. In my opinion, I love the enthusiasm, but there is no way in the world, none of them the experience in 37 years I've been doing this, that next year they're going to have GA hangars up on their 5 acre parcel, and the following year they're going to have a large hangar. In California, my experience is this is a 2, 3, 4 year project, depending how you phase all of this. And remember, we required in the RFP that before you did anything to the existing GA hangars, you had to build replacement first. And that had to start there. So that's kind of just an overview of my thought process going through all of that. And I want to go back to the purpose. Again, the RFP, purpose of the RFP, describe information, all prospective parties in order to select the most qualified applicant best meets the overall development, community, and economic benefit, use, financial objectives. So that was kind of laid out. The other important is the selection process. After evaluation of the written submittals, so again, that's what we looked at. What was submitted, that's it. That was said later, early, what was put in writing. The oral interviews, airport staff negotiate lease and development terms, top ranked party, negotiate mutually agreed upon final details, project and scope. Again, there's details. I've heard concerns that, oh, there's going to be changing projects. Nobody's changing projects. We are tweaking. That's normal lease negotiations. It would be inappropriate if we've selected Air 7 as the number one candidate, and then we told them, hey, go build the exact same thing that legend is proposed, that would be inappropriate. We would agree with that. But tweaking some hangar sizes or the rents that they are proposing to charge, or can we have space for EAA, because Young Eagles is a very important operation, kids program for the county. What can you do to help us? Those are the things we would, in the details of the negotiations. Again, I'm going to bring it full circle. Remember, all of this concern and stuff is because we were transparent. Normally, nobody would see any of this stuff and input and be concerned, because we would have resolved most of this in a final lease. So I understand why people are concerned and have some questions. And some of this is misinformation that's kind of been out there. All right, so I already mentioned we made the rankings public June 16th. In July, airport staff is presenting yet last night at the Aviation Advisory Commission, tonight at the Airport Authority. In August, we expect to begin lease negotiations. We probably would see a draft lease for this November, December. And then ultimately, it's the Board of Supervisors that approve or don't a lease that is brought to them. So I do want to take just a few minutes to kind of go through some of the misinformation that's gone out there. Again, the concern is that we're rushing the process. Again, let me be clear. We've been talking about demand for this airport through the airport layout plan process and the noise study for many years. As we mentioned, we brought this RFP to AAC and Airport Authority far back as September, and then ultimately kicked it out in December. We expect that we won't see a lease until the end of the year. So it's far from rushing through the process. We, in between, have met with folks like Save Our Skies. Even when we put out the RFP, they were hoping that we could adjust the 30 points for community benefit. Could we make it 51 or higher, a larger majority? And we explained that all of our stakeholders would like to have the most points associated with their desires, and that wouldn't be appropriate, although it was the most highly ranked area for the community. Other rumors out, airport is just focused on expansion. Again, we're being consistent with the airport master plan layout, the demand, as Aaron talked about earlier. We are required to meet the demand. And I have a few analogies I want to share in this area, is that we are not doing expansion development at the airport. We're a transportation system that addresses the demand put on the airport. It's similar to Caltrans doesn't add more lanes to Highway 101 to bring more cars. They do it to accommodate those additional demands for more cars. The other thing I would point out is, if any of you got in your car right now and drove to Las Vegas, we probably all would like to do that right now. It would, that's 300 and something miles. The halfway point is this place called Barstow, California, out in the middle of nowhere. They have an airport there. They can't get development happening at that airport. You know why? Because there's no demand for that. And I want to point out that, folks, we all love our local cities, but nobody should forget that California is wrestling with Japan as the 4th and 5th largest economy in the world, right? So what does that translate into? Camarillo in 1960 had 2,500 people. It now has 70,000 people. There are 3 hotels being constructed, in planning in Camarillo. There is a Costco going up. There's an outlet mall. That's just Camarillo. Again, from 2,500 people to 70,000 people. The county was 200,000 people in 1960. It's 830. It's the demand for the businesses, the people that live here for the airport. And we're meeting that demand as required. All right, next rumor we heard, given preference, large aircraft, reducing parking, smaller. As I pointed out in the couple previous slides, it was written into the RFP is if you touch those 49 hangars, you either fix them as is, or you replace them, quite frankly, on a larger 5-acre parcel. And at least 2 of the 3 had more hangars than 49. So no, it was by design that we would, if you touch those, you replace them. And again, 2 out of 3, and Air 7 is one of those, has instead of 49, 62 smaller hangars. And also pointed out in our studies, general aviation will continue to be the majority of our operations at the airport, and we're projecting that for the next 20 plus years. The other is about small hangars. So on the left here, so here's the 42 small hangars, and then we have 2,000, those are the 49 out of the 160 county airport hangars we control here at Camarillo. And then there's an additional 170 private hangars. Those are options for tenants to either get on our waiting list if they want, you know, an older hangar that's less expensive. There's options there, and we have options even at Oxnard. But be clear, it's always been our intent and to require that a new developer also, they're on the short list. Those tenants that we have, they get first priority. But if it's more expensive, and let's face it, if they're new facilities, they're going to be more. Even the proposal by Sky Harbor to fix those hangars moves the rent from 40 cents a square foot to 54 cents a square foot, which is what we charge for our new hangars that we built about 6 years ago. That's about a 35% increase. So under all scenarios, it is an increase, which would be expected because they're either fixing the hangars or building new ones. But there are other options, and we will be talking with our existing, there's about 35, again, I mentioned before, 49 hangars, but there's about 17 of them that are in such poor condition, we can't rent them, we can't fix them. We will be reaching out and suggesting that maybe those tenants look at other options, get on our wait list now, because as I mentioned, the development is probably minimum of a couple of years out, gives them some time. Rumor developer will build the big hangar and never build a smaller hangar. As I mentioned, it's in the RFP specifically. We will capture it in the lease, how it's phased. We are not putting our existing tenants out of their hangars before there is at least new hangar options for them. Rumor airport's trying to bring more jets and build it. They will come. Another great question that comes up frequently. And here's the analogy I'll use as well. If I told you, if you have an apartment, you have a parking space outside your apartment, or you have a house, you have a garage. If I told you that parking space or the garage, I'm going to move that 3 miles from your house. Would that be useful to you? Most people would say that's not very useful to me. Well, that's the same with, build it and they will come. The people that come here are doing business in Ventura County or near Ventura County. They're not going to fly here because I've got a business meeting in LA, getting on Highway 1 and go drive there. They'll use one of those airports, Van Nuys, Whiteman, Long Beach. They'll use a close airport. That's what the airport's value is. Either I live here, I'm going to put my plane here, my business is here, or it is some sort of business that I've got in the area. That doesn't mean that somebody doesn't live right on the border of LA and come. Yeah, that happens. But the majority, for obvious reasons, are going to be close. So not just building it and they automatically come here. It's too far away. It's not operational feasible. Rumor Ventura County, just say no to the future development, jets, this, and as Aaron pointed out, again, we've got federal obligations, not only because this is a military facility, and the deed we took said you will meet that accommodation and the demand that's there. And the same with every time we take a new grant. So it's a double whammy for us with the feds regarding obligations. Rumor project will bring jet traffic, CMA specifically on the 4.1. I've seen 20, 33, 40 jets on this new 4-acre parcel by Air 7. So this is a slide you've seen before. These are all the businesses that can house large jets. You see the numbers here and their acreage. So with all of the businesses at the airport, which totals more than 40 acres, again, we're talking about 4 acres, there's 42 jets. So to say that even 20 jets would be crammed onto a 4-acre parcel is not realistic. And specifically, recently just talked to Air 7. Their demand is already there here at the airport, and they just want more room to accommodate most. They see this new facility accommodating maybe 3 to 5 new aircraft. That's it. The other thing to point out, as Aaron touched on, we're running out of space. There's only a few more hangar operations. These are small hangars going up by APL here. We've got one parcel next to the county fire and sheriff helicopter here. This is a potential, but not likely because it was a former military refuge waste site that the Army Corps of Engineers has been studying for 30 years and not likely to release. So quite frankly, we don't have much space left. Rumor top ranked developer side plans to immediately turn over and sell the facility. Yeah, I've seen, that the flyer was shared with me. It's a flyer from several years ago. I want to point out that Air 7 has been in business at this airport for more than 20 years. We talked to them. They have no intent of selling. That doesn't mean they can't. We obviously know businesses around here do sell. The key is why it doesn't matter is we lock in the requirements in the lease. It doesn't matter who's operating there. All the things we capture, the concerns, those are captured in the lease and they have to abide by those. Rumor, Camarillo citizens do not see financial benefit. The fact is, and you've seen at least the top slide before, in 2019, we did an economic impact study. Camarillo specifically, annually, $230 million, 1,764 jobs, and annually state local revenues, taxes going back to Camarillo in that neighborhood of $10 million for, again, county, local schools. Here is a number because we got access to the tax assessor, how much that number has jumped. Again, this number is now a part of that number by itself. It's just a small piece. What does this mean? Most people don't know that every plane that is based at our airports comes with an annual tax assessment, a little more than 1%. This number even surprised me. All the airplanes at Camarillo, just under $1 billion. So what does that translate into? $9.66 million a year, shared between the county, not the airport, but shared between the county, city, Camarillo, and the local schools. Each of them getting about $3.2 million a year. And if the value of those airplanes goes up, that increases as well. But let me be clear on this, that question about money. We understand that our neighbors concerned about noise and other issues, they wouldn't care if that number was 30 million to the city of Camarillo. Doesn't matter. Which is why, as Aaron pointed out, we are committed to the things, Jeanette working with pilots, educating them about noise, and all the other things she listed, Aaron did earlier, that we're doing are important to us. All right, rumor we should have rejected or disqualified proposed due to fatal flaws, didn't meet. I want to point out something that's very important. This is, and we do these contracts and RFPs for things like our runway construction. That's going to be a $9.3 million project. We hired a consultant. They designed the specs, which means, 3 inches of asphalt, 6,000 foot runway, 100 foot, 50 foot wide. You're putting striping down. That's a very specific contract, and the bidding process is you'll meet all these requirements. If you don't, you're non-compliant, we can toss you out. You're non-responsive is the term we use. And it's based on just the lowest bidder. That's it. And that's not this process. RFP we designed and we spelled it out was, hey, here's the criteria we're going to look at. Why are you the best thing? What you submitted is how we ranked. So it's a different process. There is folks that believe words are interpreted different and they should just immediately be thrown out. We've engaged county council with the county to evaluate if we missed something. We don't believe we have. And that's the process we are at right now. There's nothing we see that would throw out any of the candidates at this point, given how general it was and by design, the RFP was crafted. Rumors, why is the airport allowing unsafe vehicle operations over at the GA corner? Fact was being proposed by Air 7, non-consistent, FAA approved, master plan, things like that. So that's the rumor is, oh, why are you allowing, and Aaron showed you in the very beginning, this was already designed. We county have built these 3 hangars. It was designed, we did environmental, it's on the ALP, to be more small GA hangars. That's already existed. And this idea that, oh no, airplanes and vehicles together, that's somehow unsafe. That's what happens in all of this non-movement, everything green, airplanes and cars share that space. That's what happens on every airport across the country as we exist. It's not until you get to the controlled area, movement area, that to enter this red area on this active taxiway, runway, you would need FAA air traffic control tower approval. So it's a misnomer that this is somehow unsafe. We have a process for you to get access to get into on the airfield. You need to pass a test, understanding the speed requirements, that you crack your windows listening for aircraft, that you're careful moving around buildings, your head's on a swivel, all of those things that are a requirement. You have to pass the test or you don't get access onto the airfield. So that's a standard that already exists. And I apologize for being long-winded, but we thought it was important to share that. Happy to answer questions now, or if you want to move to public comment or however you want to do it, available.
My suggestion is that if there's questions from the panel, let's get those answered, and then the public can hear your answers, and then we can do public comment. Does that work for you?
That works.
Okay. Any questions from the panel? My point is moot. Let's
Okay.
move to public comment.
You're
Thank you,
tricking me.
Director.
All right, that's fake. That's trick.
So we're going to move to public comments on this. A couple of things I want to say in advance. First, I urge everyone to engage in fact and not conjecture and rumor mongering. I don't think that helps the process. And also, it's 3 minutes, and we've got a lot of comment cards here, so I'm going to be pretty aggressive about enforcing that 3-minute limit. So why don't we start with Renee Hatcher?
Good evening. My name is Renee Hatcher. I'm gonna start out by apologizing. I've had a head injury. It gives me a stutter. So I apologize if I'm a little, anyway, you get it. I'm a resident of Old Town Camarillo and a member of Save Our Skies. Our group is a group of residents, friends, neighbors who've come together after noticing an increase in jet traffic in our community. We love our airport and we support general aviation. What we don't love is how increasing jet traffic is impacting and changing our community with long-term consequences. For most people, where they live is the greatest financial and emotional investment of their life. And of course, we're going to advocate for the protection of that. Of course, we're going to speak out and question what is going on and work to be heard. That's why I'm here speaking as I am right now. I handle public bidding and RFPs for the city of Oxnard. I am the subject matter expert on the process. I can tell you that the government RFP process is bound by very strict regulations, and I've been surprised and sometimes alarmed by what I've observed with this airport RFP. This isn't just my observation. At the recent open house, some very valid concerns about the RFP were brought up by others who also work in government procurement. I also have to disagree with a comment Keith just made earlier about transparency in the RFP process, saying that it's not typical. The entire premise of the public procurement law is to make it transparent. It's a public procurement of public funds. It's the right of the public to know this information and to question the process. It's absolutely incorrect that the public should learn about it when the lease process is done. We should not find out about it when the lease is done. Back when Save Our Skies asked about the building of Cloud9, we were told then we should have gotten involved earlier on because it was too late once it was done. So we listened to that suggestion and we got involved now. That is not a strange thing to do, to have the public involved. It's a transparent public process. So it's clear this RFP is problematic, not only with public perception, but also from a technical standpoint on several steps during the process. I think it should be handled like any other problematic publicly run RFP. It should be rejected and set aside and then carefully evaluated and reworked before attempting the project again. This is my professional opinion and my opinion as a Ventura County resident. These are my tax dollars at work. This is my public property. These are decisions that are being made that affect our community for decades. I'm sorry. Thank you. I just think the RFP process should be done correctly, fairly, and transparently. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Hatcher. Next up is Mark Malone.
Hello there. The impact of selecting Air 7 has been understated, but it's easy to visualize using the plans they submitted. 17 jets are shown in the midfield site. This is their plan, their drawing. 16 jet-sized hangars are in the replacement site. That's 33 new jets that currently don't have hangars in Camarillo. This is definitely a major increase. The airport stated last night that the midfield tenants do not pay enough in hangar rent compared to other tenants. Air 7's doubling of our rent apparently is a preferred solution. The Air 7 proposal will create significant new emission problems for EAA and the CAF with jet noise and fumes. Air 7's MRO will attract more jets to fly in for maintenance. Western Jet at Van Nuys shows how an MRO causes substantial increase in ground idling and increased flight operations. Air 7 fails to meet this specific requirement. Quote, developers shall replace the hangars in similar equal size and number. Instead, Air 7 builds 16 jet hangars, forcing us to pay triple the rent. Box hangar size in the RFP is not a suggestion. This is disqualifying. The small box hangar user group is being disadvantaged by Air 7 in favor of jets. This is a no-go to favor jets in the eyes of the FAA and grant insurance. Air 7's proposal shows majority control going to strategic partners and Guardian Asset Management. Who are they? Air 7 is primed to be sold to a large FBO chain such as Signature or Atlantic. Jet Aviation or Clay Lacy could make it a base for business jets. Air 7 wins while 49 GA tenants lose. Others lose too. EAA, CAF, Old Town residents, and the pets. Air 7's flawed proposal with an unvetted change in majority ownership should have been rejected. The ranking evaluation matrix seems designed to direct the win. Air 7 is ranked higher even though Sky Harbor has an internal development team, solid financials, a construction history, and serves major employers in the county. Air 7 winning on Fly Friendly is opposite to the truth. Sky would have 6 tenants to advise. Air 7 would have 33 new jets plus a lot of visiting planes. Air 7's matrix win is mainly due to the MRO that will drive up operations, increase emissions, and increase Old Town noise. Airport lease discussions seem designed to assist Air 7 in fixing their flawed proposal just enough to win your vote. You have the opportunity to reject this lease. 49 small GA users are pleading for your assistance. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Malone.
Okay. This is their proposal.
Enough. Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you. Next up, John Greenwood. Looks like Lauren is going to be speaking for John.
Hello, I'm Lauren De La Torre, and John is not able to make it today, but I told him I would go ahead and give his talk. Would you agree to have jets fly over your home for 12 cents a day? The Ventura County Department of Airports stated in 2025 alone, Camarillo Airport generated more than $9.6 million in airport personal property tax revenues. We saw those in a chart a little while ago that went direct based here at CMA and consequently they do not pay that tax. This same money would go to the county, city, and schools if the jet traffic were cut by 95%. The problems we are having would still exist with or without the tax, and our community would get the same tax money if we completely eliminated the jet problem. The DOA states that the city of Camarillo got $3.2 million in 2025. There are about 70,000 Camarillo residents. That's less than $46 a year per resident, which is about 12 cents a day. So for 12 cents a day, about 25% of Camarillo's residents get jet traffic flying over their neighborhoods around the clock, 365 days a year. And the irony is that if the jet traffic were cut by 95%, CMA would still have the same number of based aircraft, and Camarillo would still get those 12 cents. The DOA states that Camarillo Public School System got $3.2 million in 2025 from these personal property taxes. There are about 12,000 students in Camarillo's K through 12 public school systems. These districts spend about $20,000 a year per student. The Department of Airports contributes about $246 per student annually, which is about $1.30 for each of the 180 days each year. The other 185 days, the students are not in school. However, jets still are flying over their homes of these students. The jets don't care whether it's a school day or not. They're going to wake the kids and their family up in the middle of the night anyway. This is not intended to imply that anything that Keith and the Department of Airports has presented is not true, but to offer out a big number without comparing it to what impact it really has or doesn't have on our residents seems to be an incomplete statement.
Lauren, that's your 3 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Wendy Nicole.
Good evening. In response to each of the rumors and facts communicated by the airport, public record context and supporting evidence were submitted as written comment for this meeting and yesterday's AAC meeting. My request is to please read this information as it cannot be sufficiently addressed within 3 minutes. The airport has relayed that the public has been informed for 3 years. The key distinction is between long-range planning documents of the ALP and Part 150 noise study and the procurement process under RFP Air 2026-01. The timeline available through public records shows no references to the RFP that appear in the Camarillo Airport Authority agenda packets during 2022, 2023, or 2024. The first public discussion referencing the future solicitation occurred September 11th, 2025, when staff described a future letters of interest process, not the final RFP. The first agenda reference to the specific RFP appears November 13th, 2025. And then RFP Air 2026-01 was issued on December 31st, 2025. Of course, in these past few months, the proposals were received and evaluated. In June, the public open house was held. And last night and today, we've learned the timing of completing lease agreements by the end of December. And the learning is that we only know what is shared during these meetings.
Airport planning documents forecast substantial growth in business jet and turboprop activity. ALP Table 2N shows, this is a tough one, it's not a familiar word. It's itinerant, I don't know, I can't say it.
Itinerant.
Itinerant, there we go. Jet and turboprop operations forecasted to increase from 11,848 annual operations in 2022 to 49,223 in 2042. And that is an increase of 315%. And to put that number in context, that's equivalent to 134 daily operations or 5.6 flights per hour, 24 hours a day. It seems many people in Camarillo would feel this impact. A one-year time frame for this decision impacting the next 40 years should be thoroughly analyzed before agreements are reached. Additionally, comparing numbers from the 1960s till now is a challenge. If you look at published information, and we should know this, Ventura County and Camarillo's population is on decline. So this demand that we're forecasting might not be for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nicole. Any other public comments? Any
And we do
comment?
have one online.
Okay, let's have that. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. Is it different from what you? Please. No, I have it. I just assumed that it was the same as what you read. So
I believe I'm on.
I tried that for the other one. No, I'm kidding.
go ahead. Thank
If it was worth a try. Okay. Hello, my name is Lauren De La Torre, and I live on Oak Street in Old Town. I have a very vested interest in the Camarillo Airport's type of growth and the long-term infrastructure commitments being made that will impact my quality of life, my health, my safety, and my property values. Keith, I appreciate the scoring details you've shared with us last night and tonight. However, I do not appreciate the aspirations cast on the very community that will bear the brunt of the air flights from this hangar development. In reference to the greater transparency of this RFP process, you stated that no good deed goes unpunished. I would offer that if you lived under the flight path in Old Town, you too would be calling for transparency, asking questions, and weighing in on the consequences of these decisions. No one in the Advisory Commission or the Airport Authority lives in Old Town. We are trying our best to engage constructively. Transparency and accountability should be the best practices, and the community that is the most impacted should be respected for the day and night lived experiences of air flights over our homes. Thank you.
Thank you again, Lauren. And we had someone online?
Yes, we do.
All right.
So, Mr. Sullivan, you have 3 minutes to speak. Your time will begin when you start speaking.
Good evening, members of the authority. My name is Mark Sullivan. First of all, I would note that Keith's notes made a major deduct from Sky Harbor on the basis of, quote, more jet aircraft. As Mr. Malone pointed out, that's patently incorrect. You don't build 16 60-foot hangars. Those are hangars at $5,000 a month in rent, which unequivocally are going to be jet hangars. People are not going to put a piston general aviation aircraft in a 60 by 60 with $5,000 a month rent, which means there will be more jet traffic. My major concern, however, is I'm a former officer of EAA 723, and I'm a pretty avid Young Eagles pilot. And I think the EAA's program is probably one of the most effective community outreach programs at Camarillo Airport. For nearly 40 years, I had 2 T hangars in the front row of the block in question. I'm now in one of the large box hangars. Those 2 ones in the front row with Air 7, virtually every day, you'd have a jet out there with its auxiliary power unit running. That's the smallest engine on the aircraft, obviously. And literally, you couldn't stay in my hangar. It would choke you out. And I was like 300 feet away from that ramp. So I'm a firsthand witness of, how much emissions there are. Building a maintenance activity, that means by definition, you're going to be bringing aircraft in and out. You're going to be running their auxiliary power units, because that's how they start, and running their main engines to test them. And you're going to be doing this many times because you're doing a repair. You run, you test, you bring it back in, you bring it back out. Now look where they're going to be doing this. They're going to be doing this directly to the west of the EAA hangar. I would point out that local authority, the Board of Supervisors you report to, you can't really control noise that's federally preempted. But in the area of emissions, the Federal Clean Air Act has reverse preemption. Local authority is absolutely paramount. So the BOS will have the final say on this. And it's shocking to me that in the proposal, there's not one word in Air 7's proposal about doing a study for the emissions impact. And it's an emissions impact not only of the maintenance activity, running the main engines, running the APUs. Locally, it'll be a killer for the EAA. They're going to have to move out of that hangar. That might be part of the plan, for all I know. But then in addition, you've got 16 hangars, each of which could have 2 Citation jets in it, but also producing significantly more emissions than a piston aircraft. There should be a study of the emissions impact, and I don't see even a whisper of a suggestion that they're willing to do that. I think that's table stakes that local government has to insist upon, because it's, like I say, it's a CAA, it's local government's responsibility. Thank you.
Do we have any other public comments?
No, we do not.
Any additional authority comments? Supervisor Lopez.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to everyone who's been very engaged, and I know a number of you have reached out over the last couple of months. Definitely taking note of the concerns. And I think as the presentation from staff mentioned, the process for this RFP, and I can speak as one individual elected and public servant, that seeing this RFP process isn't what I've seen. There's very few instances where I've seen an RFP process be as publicly engaging as this one has been. And I'm referencing the meeting that we had earlier this year, where we had the presentations from the applicants. We had an opportunity for public comment. The meeting that took place last month, another opportunity. And so I just want to acknowledge that in that, from that perspective, I think that there has been greater opportunity for this public input, and I want to make sure that those who have been a part of that process in providing your comments and your concerns know that you are being heard. And so to that, I want to first thank staff for being engaged in that and making sure that there is more engagement than the normal posting of an RFP, receiving the proposals, staff reviewing them, bringing a recommendation to the authority or the board, and then approving a lease in the future, that there has been more engagement. So just want to thank staff for that. And so, Keith, I do have a question, as has been referenced from some of the public speakers, of what will happen in the lease negotiation, and the concerns, the comments that have been received throughout the year at some of these meetings, even written comments that have been submitted. What is the role of those comments in this process, and how is staff taking those into consideration or evaluation?
Thank you for the question, Supervisor. The input, and quite frankly, as mentioned, the input has started years ago through the airport layout plan process, the noise studies, and then through the comments of the public meetings, specifically with the RFP. We understand the desires, the concerns with stakeholders, as highlighted before, our neighbors' concerns, the tenants, the 35 tenants that remain on those hangars that could be impacted, obviously with a redesign, neighboring tenants like EA, all that goes into the final negotiations in a lease. How can we, looking at rents, size of hangars, where run-ups are allowed or not, exhaust emissions, noise, all those are the details that we go through and negotiate in a lease. So that's where you see, we've accumulated all of that input to this point as we move forward. And that's been the benefit of these community engagements is the proposers have been a part of this process. So it's not just the airport in negotiation say, we really want this is, they know why we're asking for this, this, and this, because they've seen it publicly. In March, when we had our public meetings and these meetings, on the 16th last month, when we had those, they're a part of that and get to see and understand when we're at the negotiating table for that lease and those details, why we're asking for certain things.
Great, thank you. And so again, I know that there's at times a distrust in a process and rightfully perhaps a distrust in public agencies. So as much as we want to verbally or vocally assure that public input is being heard, it's part of the process and I look forward to seeing that be more evident in as we get into the next phase of this process.
Well, and I thank you for that. And again, I want to point out even the comment, I said last night, no good deed goes unpunished. The context of that was there's a lot of misinformation, which is upsetting to our stakeholders because they've heard some of that. That's the no good deed comes unpunished. Had we done our normal process where they don't see anything until they actually have a lease that says, this is what we would require of that entity, most of this, I think, many of those concerns would go away. We still don't answer, neighbors that want to see no change at the airport, those go to federal obligations. We can't do that. Can we, at least in my ranking, balance some of those impacts? Those are the things we did in the criteria as we went through the process.
Thank you. And I think in perhaps, demonstrating good faith is even the weight being given to the community engagement criteria in the RFP being weighed there. So again, thank you to the staff and to all those who have been engaged.
Director, before you go, I have a point of clarification. I know the answer to this, but I want the public to hear the answer to my question. One of the public speakers with graphics maintained that there's going to be 33 new jets. And that's based on the size of the hangars that Air 7 has proposed. And that rents are going to double or triple based on what Air 7 has proposed. And I've expressed to you and to Matt and the folks at Air 7 my concerns about the rent especially. Is that cast in stone just because Air 7 proposed it, or does all that get negotiated as part of the lease negotiation?
Again, as I mentioned earlier, it would be inappropriate if we said, here's the top rank entity, go build us what number 3 proposed. That would be inappropriate. That's an extreme case. But negotiating prices, fees, a transition period, sizes, those are things. Everything's on the table. And quite frankly, when we go to the negotiation table, it's easy for us to say, this is our problem. How are you going to help us resolve that? And I can think of 5 different ways myself, changing the size, stepping up the increases, mirroring, or at least closely mirroring what the county charges. There's things that we can do all the way to, as I mentioned, getting on our list for other county hangars. If you want to pay the lower price, let's face it, the new hangars, the ones we built 6 years ago, they have nice bathrooms, nice floors, power door, with that comes some nice amenities. Some may want to do that. So we'll have both options, but there are many options for our existing tenants. The key was that they would not be with their airplane out without a space.
Right.
And even if they don't like that higher price, they don't need the nice facilities, that might be an interim place they stay for a period of time until on the wait list they get to one of our lower cost older hangars that we also operate.
And in your discussions with Air 7, if you reach an impasse on those issues, what happens next?
So we haven't started negotiations, but the normal process, as we state in this kind of process, is that we would move to the next in line.
And that's Sky Harbor.
Sky Harbor is number 2, and then Legend is number 3.
Thanks. I know
Which-
you,
Which is what I told those candidates when I gave them personal call, each of them.
and I know you've been the subject of a lot of criticism over the last several months, and we appreciate all your hard work and your efforts.
I appreciate that, but I understand the passion. You know, the people, we've got tenants that have been here 30 plus years, 40 plus years on the airport. They love where they are. Pilots by training don't like change, you know, rhythm, routine. I understand that. All I would offer again, as I shared with this, with the authority members, our difficult part is we have all of these stakeholders. And we're trying to do our best to balance and give some of them a piece of what they're looking for. That's the difficult part. So I understand the energy and the passion.
Thanks very much. We appreciate it. Any other questions or comments before the director leaves? Okay, well, you're up next again for your director's report.
I just had a few items and I just wanted to share that today was the last day of our lease manager, Madeline Hurley. She retired today and is off to the golf course and visiting. I think she has a road trip with her sister from Seattle starting on Sunday. And we promoted internally. Anna Castro, who was in our HR department, is now our new leasing manager. Welcome, Anna, and condolences all in the same time. And the last item I had was I just want to recognize our partners. Ventura County Animal Services does lease property at the airport. They had a fantastic Adopt a Pet Day on June 6th. Very, very successful. Did a fantastic job. And that's all I have for everybody. Thank you.
Any people on the authority have comments beyond what we've already discussed? Seeing none, we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.